the game was different, right? The rules was different. The ball
Oh,
was different.
the Euro style is different in America.
The Euro style was a lot different than America.
That's the first time y'all seen that Euro step too, huh?
Absolutely.
Hello, my name is Julian Betko. I'm the director, founder, and head coach at Get Better Academy in Czech Republic.
Hey, Coach, it's great to have you here, my guy. It's really a pleasure. I've known you for quite some while now, longer than I care to recall. We've had some really great times, and very fortunate to have you here on the show. And while I have you here, I'd just like to say I really appreciate having you as a mentor and a big brother and someone that I can get on the phone, and really appreciate our relationship and our professional and our personal relationship. So really happy to have you on the show today.
Glad to be here, Danny. You know, you're a great guy, and I'm glad that you're trying to help other young and up and coming players by doing the right thing and give them the right information. So glad to be here, man.
Appreciate it. So just real quick, doesn't have to be too in depth. Can you give us a brief overview of your coaching experience?
Yeah, after I finished my playing career, which was about 12 years ago, pardon me. I've coached for a year in professional basketball in Slovakia, and then I moved myself to Spain for 2 years, where I've coached in the academy that was kind of focusing on development and promotion of players. And in 2013, I've started my own academy, Get Better Academy, in Czech Republic, and I've been doing it ever since. I found my calling in doing very similar things that you're trying to do by working with the future and trying to do it the best we possibly can. So that's what has been happening in GBA, and I'm very happy about where we are and what we're doing and how many players we were able to help.
Perfect, Coach. I love it. And for those who aren't familiar with Julian's background as well as playing, national team, he played for Clemson and played for Butler under Coach Brad Stevens. So playing career was pretty good, and coaching career is just as awesome. So some real, looking forward to some great information coming up. Throughout your years, Coach, how many players roughly would you say you've helped send to the States to play college ball?
Yeah, I would probably put it in two different groups. In Spain, I coached and developed probably over 20 players that went to NCAA basketball in 2 years that I was there. Now, I was not directly involved in looking and searching for those opportunities. Now, in GBA, in the last 6 years alone, we've sent near 50 players to the American basketball, and I was directly involved with their development as well as promotion and trying to recruiting process and trying to find them the best place that suited them for their success. And so altogether, I was involved with 70, about 20 more of developing their skill set, and 50 overall, the whole package as far as development and placement.
Man, that's a lot. That's a lot of guys. Why do you think that the US system was preferential for those players in particular? Like, why did they go to the US system?
Well, I think it's very individual. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people choose to go that direction. Some of them, they don't have the opportunity in their countries to properly develop professionally for whatever reasons, whether it's the lack of playing time, lack of resources, or lack of coaching, or lack of opportunity overall. Some of them go there because their families and value education, and despite the pluses and minuses of American system, the number one thing they do have, and they are way ahead of the Europe, is how to put together support system to educate player and let him graduate with the university degree, and at the same time try to play, if not the highest, at least a high level basketball. So I think that's the driving factor of everybody. And not to mention that America is still the #1 country in basketball, and it's the mecca of basketball, and it's very attractive for young and aspiring players. So I think everybody has their own reasons, but overall, those are like the main ones.
Perfect. I like that. I would definitely agree with you. Can you break down the types of players that you've helped send to college basketball?
Well, all kind of different types. You know, I think that more than talking about it, the types is you have to separate yourself, because obviously the game is different in Europe than it is in America, and without hurting anybody's feelings, it's more athletic, it's faster, it's stronger. You are in American high school system now, so you understand it very well. So you have to compensate. You know, you cannot teach a player in a year to jump higher by 40 centimeters, but you can teach him certain things to make up for that. You know, and the game IQ would be one, and obviously that's in Europe, I think, a little bit at a higher level than, let's say, high school. But it's not necessarily the type. It's maximizing your own potential, and then obviously fitting into what every coach wants. And every coach wants a lot of different things, because they have different systems and different style of play. But the common repetitive word that I've been asked for is toughness. You know, is the player tough? Can he handle coaching? Can he handle a tough situation? Can he handle change of culture and whatever the situation might require? That's tough is really the common denominator of all coaches. The other thing is obviously athleticism, but that's where a lot of American coaches that do understand, they will not pressure it too much, you know, because if you just want an athlete, then you have it over there in
abundance. Yeah.
Why are you recruiting a Euro kid if you're looking for an athlete? So I think it's a combination. You have to be, you know, you cannot be unathletic. You're not going to survive the American game. However, if you have a decent athleticism, you don't have to be a world-class athlete. If you put IQ, toughness, and skill to it, then you have a pretty good chance to be recruited. That's what most of the players that I was able to assist.
Okay.
Most of the players that I was able to coach or develop or help to get there were those type of combinations.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Is there a specific position that gets recruited more than the other? You know, what position gets called up all the time?
Well, you know, clearly it's the same everywhere, you know. Too many guards in the world, you know. So basically, you know, back in the day, I would say 10, 15 years ago, the answer would be the bigs. You know, everybody wants the bigs. There's just not enough bigs. However, I think the times are changed, and besides saying that the bigs get recruited over the guards, you know, yeah, it's true. There's so many guards in America that the preferential, you know, position is the big. But I think it has changed, and it's positional size, to be honest. You know, if you have a 6'6" point guard, he's a point guard, but everybody wants that. So positional size is more important than the position at the moment. And you know, we are in an era where the positionless basketball has become a phenomenon, and I think it's only going to continue. So it's not necessarily about the position, but about your positional size and then skill set, as I mentioned already.
Okay. As a coach, what qualities should a player have in order to get recruited?
Well, qualities, we've mentioned some of them, okay? You have to have the positional size, you have to have a decent athleticism, you have to have the skill set. Obviously, compete with the Americans, you have to have the game IQ. That is a big plus for you. And then toughness. If I would name 5, those are the 5 that you would have. And obviously, work ethic and character is the 6 and 7. And some coaches prefer 3 over the 4 of the others, but I think those 7 would hit pretty much most of the top list qualities that the coaches look for.
Now, would you say that you can get recruited not being a great basketball player, but having an abundance of the rest of the attributes. So, you're really tough, you're competitive, you've got some size, but you haven't got a great IQ, and you can't really, your skill set isn't there. Can you succeed having those things? Can you get recruited that way?
Yes. Yes, the answer is yes. However, it's like from the movie Dumb and Dumber, do I have a chance? 1 in a million, so I have a chance, anybody can get recruited.
Okay.
But to be honest with you, Danny, the truth is yes, you can get there. However, with 1,000 universities plus minus that are in America offering scholarships, very few are looking for the right piece to the puzzle. There are some, the coach that just has all the superstars or has the team build and needs a character guy, needs a lot of those guys that you mentioned, they are the role guys, let me get you to do this role and plug you in. There is coaches that understand to build a team from the pieces of the puzzle. However, a lot of those schools are looking for the next superstar. And if the coach is recruiting the next superstar and you are this type of kid, you're not going to be, you're not going to impress him. But I think that there are places in America and there are coaches in America that understand the value of, like you said, extreme character, work ethic, toughness, certain skill, and the guy that will do whatever it takes to win. Because at the end of the day, some coaches then understand winning and want to build the team the right way, understand that those players are important. And in America, whether we want it or not, everything is about winning.
Very true. Very, very, very true. From the vast range of players that you've helped send over to the States, is there a common skill set? Is there something that the majority of them, if not all of them, have been able to do?
Well, most of them, like I said, very few of those 70 kids we've helped could match the top athletes in America. That's just the truth. Okay, there were some athletic guys among the group, but majority of them were just average to a low level athletes in American measures. There's just so many athletes in the United States that, again, it's the compensation and the common compensation for the athleticism or lack of it in American measure is your skills and primarily your shooting. Everybody is looking for shooters, people that can stretch the floor, right? So I have my 3 American Dynamite guys that can get the paint touch or the rim many times. So what's going to happen is people are going to collide the paint, and that's where you need shooters. So if you can put the ball in the basket from 3-point line frequently, and you can do it in a relocation, you have a proper footwork, or even create your own shot, which is obviously an American type or American segment of the game, you can be very, very valuable. I would even say if you have a positional size and you have incredible 3-point shot, you are already valuable to a lot of places. Okay,
that's great to think about because there's going to be a lot of kids that are, hey, I'm a guard, I'm a big or whatever, but yeah, if you can shoot from your position, and I guess defending would be another aspect as well as scoring, being able to defend your position.
If you can shoot the ball at a very high rate, all you have to do is be able to contain your position. If you can guard your position and shoot the ball at a high rate, you will be wanted. Yes, defense is defense is something that people ask besides toughness. As I've mentioned, the 7 important things that coaches always ask for. I didn't talk about defense, but one of the questions I get a lot is, can he defend? Especially if we talk about guards, can he defend American guards? Can he stay in front of the ball? Can he pressure the ball? Can he do those things? I think with bigs is not as important as far as, as long as you're big and you work, you'll fight the bigs and then they'll teach you how to contain the guard. But if you are a guard looking to go to play in America, you cannot be the guy that gives up paint touches in 2 dribbles. If you do that frequently in practice, don't talk about scholarship. It's very simple.
I like it. I like it. What's the first step in a player getting recruited to college?
Be good enough.
Okay.
That's the first. Be good enough. And there is more to it, but obviously, if you're not good enough, what is promotion going to do for you?
Okay.
It's going to ruin your.
And how would you know? How would you know if you're good enough? Like how, in the grand scheme of things. So I'm a kid in Austria in a small club, and I'm killing it in my little domestic league, and my coach thinks I'm amazing. So I believe I'm good enough. Like, how would I know I'm good enough?
Well, you hit the jackpot with that question, because there is so many disillusional players in Europe that the list is very, very long. They are the kings of their castles, but in reality, they are nowhere near to be good enough to go to scholarship. So I think you're mixing two questions together, but to answer, how would you know if I'm good enough? It's like, first, like, do the people around you understand? That's the first question. If they don't, then try to find out the truth. Seek the people that understand, and hopefully they will tell you the truth. You know, I mean, it's incredible over the years that I've been involved, whether it was in Spain or in GBA, how many parents and players and people come through us and they completely do not understand the reality. Now, it is not my job. It is not my job to break it down that they are away from reality. What we're trying to do here is to break it down to a point is, what you think you are not right now, but if you do this, and this in the upcoming months or years, you can be that. And then we'll try to explain why that, you know? So that's how we look at it. You know, we don't want to ruin anybody's dream. I think believing is very important to any process in life. So we try to tell them the truth, but at the same time, trying to say, hey, if you do this, and this, you might get there.
I respect that. I like that. Can you suggest why an international player would get recruited over a domestic player?
Well, it's a great question. He has to be better than the domestic player. Now, there's a piece of luck that can go into this, because everybody has certain recruiting opportunities and recruiting budgets, and you know, all you have to do is, you know, there's just this luck part, right? If a head coach sees you somewhere and you show him what he wants, it's done. Now, if you perform one time and the assistant sees it, it's not a done deal. You know, you have to be consistent, which is what all the coaches want from their players, right? Be consistent in your approach and in your performance, in your character, in your work ethic, in your, you know, whatever. So if you are consistent, is the first step to be recruited, because if you're inconsistent, it goes vice versa. You know, you might be good for 3 games and then you are bad for 2, but what if the head coach sees you on that bad day?
That's it.
It's done. So, and kids don't understand this, and I think we here, you know, we try to teach that. You know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, everybody's so crazy hyped. Thursday, fatigue comes in and character starts showing. Now, what if that coach is watching you now? You know, people don't understand it. They all want, but who is tough enough or trained enough to get through the discomfort zone? So I don't know if that answers your questions, but I think it's important information. Consistency is everything.
Yeah, I like it. What goes into the recruiting process of an international player? Like, what would they need to know?
Well, first, obviously now it's a different era because there is so many rule change due to COVID, but in the normal times there were in the past, and hopefully it will be in the future. You have to have a graduate degree from a high school. You have to meet curriculum classes, which is I think it's 16 core classes you have to get through your high school. You know, I'm not going to name them all, but it's obviously foreign language, math, science, social study, and your native language, to name a few. And then you have to have a certain grade point average. And based on your grade point average, you have to have the score that is high enough for you to be accepted first to NCAA and then to a particular university, and that changes from university to university. So that's the academic part. And then obviously it's the basketball part, and we've talked about that enough. I think you have to be good enough and you have to be promoted and seen.
Okay.
And I would just add one important thing, Danny. I would add one important thing, and I'm not saying going to America is bad as far as for promotion, for showing yourself. But over the years, I've seen so many failures because kids, like you said, the kids, for example, a kid from Austria, he's good. He thinks he's good. Now he's going to America to show himself, and then the reality struck. He gets murdered. Confidence is gone because reality came so fast. 90% of the players cannot handle it, and no, they're not getting scholarships. They're returning to Europe broken and worse. So I think that's why we are a very successful bridge, because we break down the reality and yet prepare the kids for what's coming. And then they can succeed. And the success has been proven. We have 5 Division I universities right now. They have 2 or more of our players. So our players are succeeding in that level, and the coaches want more. But this is a big mistake, because when you go to high school to show yourself and you don't have the individual skill set to create your shots and play the American game, you just a lot of times get murdered. Unless you are elite European talent, would never recommend, go the high school way to show yourself and get scholarship.
Okay. I definitely hear you.
I'm sorry. You can cut this out later, but sorry. I hope I didn't hurt your recruiting. But
no, not at all.
There's just so many of them.
No, not at all. And hey, and this is what, for me, I want the honesty. I want the kids to, really understand, because you do get a lot of kids coming over. They can hit a 3, they can dunk a ball. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, why isn't Coach K calling me to come and play at Duke? You're like, bro, come on now. Do you know what I mean? Let's get reality. So I'm hoping to spread this and everyone can get even the parents, how many parents, you're almost there. How many disillusioned parents do you get through your door of, hey, my little Tomic's great, I think he can play for North Carolina, and you're looking at him like, he can't do a left-handed layup. What are you talking about? Yes,
and it's our job to be the bad guys, devil advocates, and give those informations, and yet not hurt their dreams and try to help them. That's what we do, Danny, and it's okay. It's okay, but the reality hurts sometimes, and we have to be careful how we make it, how we present it.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how important is education to the whole process? So how important is getting good grades, doing the right classes? How does that facilitate, getting a scholarship to a school?
Well, yeah, it's there's 2 main important factors to that. Number one thing is you have to qualify, right, for the particular collegiate level, whether it's there's many of them, NAIA, NCAA Division II, NCAA Division I. They have different requirements as far as qualifying. But as long as you want to hit those, now I expect those informations are searchable online. This is not a rocket science. It's easy to find out what makes you eligible academically to go to Division I, Division II, NAIA, NJCAA, which is the junior college. So that's the one thing, to be qualified. Now, a lot of times players make mistake. Okay, I'm qualified for this level. Good. So I can just get bad grades here, or I don't care anymore. What's important question is qualified for the NCAA, let's say, for example. That's one part. Now the other part is get to a particular school, and there's a lot of schools that have higher requirements, and now if you don't meet those, they might want you, but you're not going to be able to get in, so you're losing the opportunity. And it could happen that we didn't find a school that wanted you, the way these 3 schools want you, but you don't have enough good grades to get there. So not everybody can be straight A students, and we understand that, but I think striving towards the best grades possible, it only increases your opportunities to get a scholarship, or even get an academic scholarship as partial contribution to athletic, which is obviously for a little bit lower level talent kids, but there's still a significant amount of money to be earned by having good grades.
That was amazing. That was, yeah. And that is, we spoke about this last season, about the sliding scales and, you know, being qualified or having the right grades to get into higher requirements for schools, for colleges, versus just the NCAA. I think the NCAA, if I'm not mistaken, is a 2.3 GPA to play.
Used to be 2.5, they turned it down to 2.3.
Yeah.
And Division 2 is 2.0.
Yeah, so, you know, there's not many schools, you know, let's say if you do want to go to a Duke or a North Carolina, or I'm sure Butler, you know, you go there with a 2.3 and it's, sorry, buddy, keep it moving. So.
Well, you know, it's very individual. Every school, you know, it depends how much they want you and how much exceptions they can accept. But sometimes I've met many times head coach really pushed and wanted, and the administrations or the dean said no. And that has happened multiple times. So it is real, and it is something that kids should start thinking, you know, about the age 14, 15, if that's their dream.
Nice. Would you choose a better basketball school or a better academic school? Or, you know, which, if you was, let's say you were sending your son over to a school and you had like a really good, you know, basketball program and you had a really good academic program.
I understand your question, and there is no question. The answer is not for everybody. It's very simple. What is my potential to be a high-level professional? If the percentages are high, then I would choose a better basketball school, because that's what I'm going to do. Now, if I am, you know, a guy that might make 1,000 euros a month as a professional basketball player, but I have the opportunity to go to, I don't know, Dartmouth, Yale, Harvard, Bucknell, whatever, you know, American University, high-level institution academically, where you can really learn high-level stuff academically and then get a high-paid job, then, you know, use basketball as a tool to get a better life. And it's something that, it's, again, evaluation of yourself, of your potential, and making a rational decision. I know the passion, most of the time kids will pull towards the better basketball school, but what's the reality? You are going to make money playing basketball, you know? I think that's the main question, but that you have to decide at the age of 18.
That's a very good, and I guess that's a tough realization sometimes, of understanding, again, realization of, you know, your talents and your ceiling, your potential. But I believe that is really tough, to be so devoted to basketball. You love it, you want to travel with it, and then deciding that actually I'm going to go to a better academic school, because in the long term, you know, you imagine you being an 18-year-old and trying to think of when you're 22, 23, 24. So definitely a tough decision. Right, so we're going to go into some questions based around coaches. So how can a coach aid the development of a player that wants to get to the States?
What type of coach are we talking about?
Let's say team coach. You know, you're a team coach, and, you know, how can you aid? Let's say, you know, it's kind of tough because you've got a lot of high-level players in your program, but let's say you've got 2 guys out of your 15 or your 12 or your squad. What's the best way to aid them in, you know, getting a scholarship to the States? Well,
are we talking about coaches in Guatemala, England, Europe, Japan, coach, because America, it's a very broad question, but I think
so this is for our international students. So let's say, as I said, let's go back to our kid in Austria. How can a team coach there aid the development of a player that wants to go to the States?
Well, I don't want to insult anybody, but I'm going to be very honest here.
Oh gosh.
The only way the coach can help is to know his craft and know his stuff to help him to be a better player. That's it.
Okay.
Majority of the coaches in Europe, if they do not have a experience what American basketball is about, what the skill set is about, how to acquire that skill set, how to mentally prepare for the game of basketball in America, how they can prepare them or aid them. First of all, they have to win. And if they don't have to because they're not professional and they coach younger generations, they want to win because people want to win, which, again, I don't want to talk about GBA too much, but I am the director. If somebody loses and we do the right thing with development, nobody's in trouble. This is a huge benefit. Whereas, you can get fired anytime, anywhere. And coaches a lot of times plays winning over development, and that I see that everywhere. So how the coach can aid, if you don't know anything about where the kid wants to go, how are you going to help him get there? That's the reality. And think about you and I when we've met 10, 12 years ago. How could you help a kid to get to the States? Answer your own question. You would make him the best he can be. You would try to teach him what you already know. But would that really aid him to get there? Now, 12 years down, when you learn a lot about American basketball, you're there yourself, you study it, I think you can help the kid a lot more. So the answer is, without hurting anybody's feelings, I'm not saying that those coaches are good or bad. I'm just trying to say there's not really much. It's like if you have a BMW and it breaks down, you're not gonna go to a car dealership for Skoda to fix it. You have to look where they can help you with what you want and what you need. That's very simple as that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think sometimes, and this might be controversial in itself, but sometimes I think to aid a player's development, sometimes you have to move them on. Sometimes a coach realizing that, hey, I don't have the infrastructure, I don't have the network, I don't have the, as you said, the knowledge of how to best serve, a player with tremendous talent. And it's not just about, I can keep a really good kid with me in my program and we can win all our games, but that's not going to benefit him. So I think being selfless and being a really good coach, in my opinion, is understanding, that you're not adept, you're not equipped with enough information and needing to move him on to a different program.
Yes, I wouldn't say it any better, Danny. This is the key, and I've met people in situations where coaches were exactly like you described. And then I've met situations and people that would try to convince the kid about everything but the truth to stay. So, everybody's got to make their own decisions about what coaching is about, and then go from there.
Do you think you need to predominantly focus on a prospective college recruit during practices and games to help them get sent to a school? So again, if we go back to our let's go Germany. You've got a club in Germany and you've got this one kid who's really good. As a coach, should I just spend all my efforts running all my offenses, focusing my practice solely around, is that me doing my job correctly, or should I spread the time out? Should I, be a bit more holistic in my approach?
Well, in general, I don't know any places in Europe that would have this one guy and run offense through him and do everything for him for the sole purpose of him going to the college. If you have a top level player in European setup, you probably training him to become a pro, period.
Okay.
If you ask Spanish clubs or even German clubs, the top clubs, where is this top guy going? And we hope he's gonna, sign with us. That's what they want. That's why they're doing the youth development part. So I don't think that how they use the player offensively or how they making him better is connected to getting to the States. Now here possibly it could be, or other places like, let's say HBA in Finland, where they really focus on development first, and then they are very open to United States. Those are the situations that are very unique, but I don't see it broadly over in Europe that is done this way for this purpose. I don't see it.
Okay. What's the best way, and I guess more me thinking back to 12 years ago, and before that, but what's the best way for a coach or a young coach to contact a college about a player that they think is a good prospect? What's the first step?
Now this is very difficult because you can reach out and you might hit a jackpot with an assistant or director of operations that might have the time, or he's a good guy and he'll answer you, but your chances of succeeding are very, very low in getting the player over there. Why? Because if you have to do the reaching out, it means that the player is mid to low level as far as Europe. If you have an elite player in Europe, national team leader, EuroSpecs top 40 or EuroHopes top 40, or he's playing for a respectable club, he's somewhat already known. There's this whole there's a lot of agencies out there that do the promotions. There is agent that already trying to play with the parents and the player, even though obviously it might not be official deal because that would make the players ineligible. But if you are the coach somewhere in the middle of, let's say, Poland, reaching out to colleges by emails and cold calling, you would have to be really devoted guy to do that, because your chance to succeed is, you send 100 emails, you might get 3 responses. It's all about relationships, Danny. Who can you call that they can trust? Because at the end of the day, for every player that the university signs internationally, they have 10 international players on the table offered by somebody, and they're going to go with who they trust, who they believe is the best fit for them. And nobody will take a player through a cold email sent over a player from a coach that they respect or that they know, or the program that they know, or their own evaluation of the player, whether it's live or multiple tapes.
Okay. It is tough, and as we kind of said at the start of this segment, kind of got to make that.
I would give one advice. If you are one of the, not you, but if there is coaches that have limited opportunities to do this, then develop relationships. Reach out to coaches for not to promote a player, but to let them know that you are in a program that might produce a player, or go and travel, visit tournaments. Just relationships is everything, like in any business. So that would be the advice. Not sending cold emails with a highlight link to anybody, because the chances are they're not even gonna look at it.
Very true. Controversial question. What's the worst thing a coach can do for a player that wants to go to the States?
Kill his confidence. And that happens in Europe a lot, by yelling, screaming, telling them good, not considering psychology or mental development of a player in a young age. And then, you don't understand how many players comes to GBA and they are talented and they think of themselves like they're nothing, and this is very sad across the coaching, across the coaching in Europe, or anywhere in the world for that matter. Europe obviously is the specialty, but if I would have to say, it's not taking their confidence, not supporting their future, and telling them that they can be somebody. That's number one. And number two is obviously not allowing the size shoot the ball. That has happened a lot too. I've seen that even at the pros when I started out, and seeing a couple of the pros who their game's comfortable, and
they shoot the ball and the coach is yanking them, or they shoot the ball and they're looking over to see if they're being subbed out. Killing confidence is an easy way to crush a player's development. Here's one for you as well. Might be controversial for yourself. Would you say the objective of a good program should be to send players to the States?
No.
Okay.
Now, objective of a good program is to take a player at certain level, and in a certain period of time is to make that level higher. Now, whether that's higher division within that country, or a scholarship in the United States, or even high level basketball in the continent, I think that's a credibility to the institutions. Now, I've talked about the players we've sent to the American basketball, but we have way over 10 players in the professional basketball, playing in a VTB league, Euro league, Spanish league, top leagues in Latvia, Germany, Ukraine. Like, we have professionals. So I'm not the one who says come to GBA or come and go to States. It's the best thing for you. I actually think now that for some players it's not the best. So I don't know if it's controversial. The truth is, it's not an amount of titles, especially in the youth. We have many Czech titles, but that's not something you see that we market. We are proud of the players that came at level 5 and left level 9. I think that's what it's all about.
I appreciate that. I like that. And it kind of, for me, it kind of makes it a bit more wholesome, the coaching experience, because you care about the individual. Wherever they reach, it's down to them and how much work they put in. But as coaches, our driving force should just be, hey, let's just get them to get as closer to their ceiling and achieve their potential as possible. So I really do value that answer. Last few, and I'm really enjoying this. I'm really enjoying you being down the line as always, but being able to share it is great. Views on college basketball. So what's your views on the different levels of college basketball? Is junior college bad? And are you a failure if you don't go to Division I?
Well, so first question, what's the levels? There is high major levels, which is about 70 teams in the United States. And I think that's a professional basketball. If you're just pursuing high major, which is one of those plus minus 70 schools, if you're good enough to play there early, you should be good enough to sign a pretty good contract in Europe. And that's the fact. So a lot of kids make that mistake going to high major because they see the potential, but the potential will never be developed, because at that level, coaches are such a significantly paid people that if they don't win today, they might be fired, and they don't care about your development. If you're not good enough, they'll sign somebody else. That's very important. Now, mid-major, it can be tricky because mid-major is a lot of times they will beat the high majors because they have good system, good coaching, and good development. But not everywhere. And then obviously low majors are tricky because sometimes it's the best place for you to play early. But some of the programs are, losing a lot, not winning, negative environment. It could be also tricky. So to answer, how do I see the levels? You can find the good and the bad situation at all levels. And I think I can talk about that for hours, but I think that's how I would sum it up. If I'm not mistaken, your second question is
junior college bad? Would you say junior college is bad?
No, it's not bad at all. If you're not the guy that you can be overlooked, you might be good enough, but there's a lot of good enough people out there. You might be overlooked. You might miss your opportunities. You might be injured. You might have the academic issues. And if you are, or you might have the language issues. If you are one of those guys, then junior college is a great way for you if the America is your dream, and that's what you want. So, and there is some great junior colleges as far as the level of basketball they play and level of talent they have. Sometimes even more than Division I schools, because like I said, the academic issue remains constant, and junior colleges are the repairing system of that. So there's a lot of players in America that are extremely talented, have to go to JUCO route. So I wouldn't say it's bad. but there is certain situations in JUCO basketball that I would call bad, and not necessarily for, you know, the players they have, but the way they structure everything from facilities, practices, you know, the whole basketball structure, you know. So I don't know. I hope that answers.
Definitely. There's a stigma. I know I've heard it over the last, let's say, 7 or 8 years. Parents and players not wanting to go to JUCO. I had a kid here, and when we first started talking about the possibility of him going, just because he hasn't been playing structured basketball for a very long time, I said, hey, junior college would probably be a good route for you to go get acclimated to college basketball, blah, blah, blah. I know he was against it. His mum was against it, blah, blah, blah. So I know there's a lot of individuals that hear junior college and they instantly shut off. So that's why I always tend to ask that question.
So it goes back to how good you are. Are you qualified? Is your English good? Are you good enough? Then put your terms on the table. I understand. But to be good enough, that makes you one of the top 1,000 players in the world. If you're one of the top 1,000 players in the world in a particular age, then you can say, I don't want JUCO. I understand.
Okay, fair enough. And last bit of that question was, would you consider a player a failure if they didn't go to Division 1?
Absolutely not. It's like, this is ridiculous. Like if somebody would say I'm a failure signing a Division II scholarship, then I say, all right, so you are one of the top 2,000 players in the world. There's about 10 million of them that failed to get where you are. If you consider that a failure now, in the sense that you're going to work hard to maybe get there later or be somebody, but it's okay not to lose the motivation or the chip on the shoulder. But to say it's a failure, sometimes it's better to go Division II than Division I for many reasons. You play earlier, you might develop better. It might be a winning culture. I'd rather win 25 games as a person in Division II in a good program than lose 30 in Division I. Sorry. You know, it's very individual.
And I asked that question again, just because I'm sure over your years, you've had the players that have come into your program and looked you in the eye and say, hey, coach, I'm a D1 player, I'm a D1 athlete. Or the parents come to you and say, hey, I want to go to D1. And you look at them and you go, oh, well, I think maybe you should go to D2. And they're like, you know, they look down upon you like, you know, D2 or D3. Like it's an issue. So that's why I always, you know, that's why I asked that question, because I don't think parents who don't have a full comprehensive understanding of the system and players, you know, they don't understand that, hey, D2 is good, the D3 is good. Wherever you can get in and play, I think that's a great level.
Well, I completely can see what you're talking about. Now, luckily, we are here in a situation where it doesn't happen anymore to us, because we have sent, I think, 17 Division I players in the last 3 years. So we have every year a significant amount of Division I players. And if somebody that is not a Division I player tells me, hey, I am a Division I player, first of all, I give him the specific numbers, statistically or skill-wise or whatever, why he's not. And then if he continues to pursue that, I'll let him compete with the Division I guy in the academy. And then, you know, if he continuously is better than the guy, then he's a Division I guy. As simple as that.
Change the outlook.
You know what I'm saying? Are you better than this guy? If he says yes, okay, show me every day for 5 days straight. If he does that, then he is. And my job as a coach is to deliver that for him. But if he says, I'm a Division I this, I'm Division that, then in the practice he gets murdered, you know, I'll show him on tape. You got murdered. Are you going to fight me on this? We have the tools to explain, but I can understand how this can be an issue in a lot of different places.
Yeah. Now, not that you're coaching professionally, but you work with professionals. Now, as guys return home from college, are they stand out than the guys that didn't go to college, if that makes sense? So the guys that are returning, you know, if they spent 4 years playing collegiate basketball versus the guy that stayed you know, local or domestic, whatever, are the guys that come back, are they genuinely better than those that stayed?
Well, it's an unfair question for a very simple reason. If I'm recruiting somebody that has finished college in America, it's either because he would be local from Czech basketball, which means he has value in the country, or he was dominant in America,
Okay.
in the particular setting he was. So, you know, that guy that was dominant in the college is probably better than the guys that stayed behind in the country. But for every 1-2 dominant players from every university, there is 10 to 12 guys that haven't been dominant. And have they got better as much as the guys that stayed? That's a question to be answered, and it's very individual. So it's an unfair question for me to say, but because of this explanation, I would say.
Okay. Great question. Want to hear your thoughts. Does an extremely talented player have to go to college in the States to be successful? And how much do you value the domestic route of staying either in your home country or staying in Europe?
Right. I don't think it's important how much I value it, but the answer to your question is, if you say extremely talented player, I think that it deserves more definition. You know, is he a player that can sign a 3-year guarantee deal in one of the top leagues in Europe? If that's the case, then going to America absolutely makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. Now, if you're a mid-level talent, it really depends on the development structure that is offered to you in European setting and the money obviously behind it. But, you know, are you this type of guy? Let's say you can sign a 3-year deal for 40,000 euros together, right? Is that better than going to the States? Well, in Europe, you can play Division A. If you don't play, you practice with the men's team, make money, and you can play Division B. Right? Every team has one. If you go to high major, because this type of level of a talent, let's say 40,000 euro deal, you are probably capable of going to high majors in America. But now what if you get there, the culture, the style of play, the skill set, we've talked about it today, right? Now you find yourself not good enough. What's going to happen if you don't play for a year or two? Where's your development as a player? So again, we could talk about this question alone for an hour. That's how important it is, and that's how many people I've seen made bad decisions. But if you're extremely talented, college is absolutely not must-go way for you to develop.
Okay, perfect. I like it. And can you tell me, or can you give me the negatives of going to play collegiate basketball? I guess you kind of just touched on it in terms of not getting the development, but can you identify any other negatives of going to play ball in the States?
Well, there's going to be tough times. You know, anybody that came from America had experienced tough times, whether it was cultural or whether it was financial, whether it was, you know, loneliness, different attitudes, different language. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that can create, you know, uncomfortable situation. If you get injured, your mom's not there next day, you know, there's just a lot of things. And I've experienced a lot of them. And if you're not mentally tough enough or strong or ambitious enough to get through those things, America can be brutal to you.
Hey, I mean, I've not even released yet, but I've got some stories of kids who have gone through the wars, and you're like, wow, dude, dealing with that when you're 18, 19 and 5,000, 6,000 miles away from home in a different time zone is, it is tough. So yeah, you have got to be resilient. You've got to have the personality first and foremost, the determination to stick it out and stuff. So it can be, America can be a rough place if you're not ready.
You said you wanted stories, yes? So
Yes,
I'll just give you illustrate the two what I was just talking about. So I don't want to talk about myself, but I was a pretty good prospect to make a good professional basketball contract. What level, I'm not going to talk about, but I consider myself to be the potential for highest. So when I got injured in Clemson, I transferred to Butler after surgery, but I was not sure about what's going on. When Butler examined my knee, I went to the Colts doctor. He was the best knee doctor in Indianapolis. I was there for 7 days and with complete strangers, right? Medical person from Butler, doctor I've never met. And I asked, okay, so he's going to tell me what's with my knee? Yes, he's the best. So he comes into the ambulance and says, all right. I was like, Doc, what's up? When can I start? He says, you might never play again. And I saw myself in the NBA making a lot of money, being the player. And I didn't know like what to do. Do I trust this guy? Like they'd say he's the best. I didn't know what to do. Like mother nowhere, father nowhere, no family, no friends. A stranger next to me telling me it would be okay. It was a tough situation. And then the other one is like I was gonna fly for Christmas to my host family that lived in Pennsylvania. And I don't know if you've met Sandy or not, but on the Christmas Eve, 24th, I got stuck because of a snowstorm. So I returned to my apartment where everybody left for Christmas, and I found out my roommate did not pay the bill for electricity, and we got shut off. So it's Christmas Eve, 9 o'clock, and I'm by myself in an apartment that has 9 degrees.
Oh, geez.
So I slept in, and I think it was 2004 Christmas. So, now you being a family type of dude that loves that type of environment and gifts and dinner and family, you sitting by yourself in an apartment that has 10 degrees. And I didn't want to call anybody because I don't want to, I don't feel like it was proper thing to do to bother people on a Christmas Eve. So I suck it up, and I went through I slept in the winter jacket, and the next day I called everybody to try to get it fixed. And actually one of my friends from school took me to their family. So I spent that Christmas day with completely strangers. So those are just the two on top of my head. And like, if you really are not strong enough mentally to get through situations like this, you might want to consider twice to do it. Now, I don't regret it. It made me who I am, and I love the experience. But like I said, it's not for everybody.
Coach, that is, those two. I know about the injury one, but I didn't know about the Christmas one. And a lot of these kids go through these situations, and it's not just the glitz and glamour of, hey, I can dunk a ball, I can hit a three, sign me up to somewhere. So definitely appreciate you sharing that. Last question, and I'm sad that we've got to conclude, but last question. What advice would you give to someone who is 14 and they're aspiring to become a collegiate athlete? What would what advice would you give them?
I know it's gonna sound cheesy, but be an everyday guy. Be an everyday guy and ask yourself every night, was I today the best I could be in my approach and in my work ethic? If you do that, that's the first step. Second is seek the best that can help you get there, because what people teach you during those 4 years is so important.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and that's really hopefully that hits home for somebody 14, 15, as they're getting older. I know the chances go down a little bit if they're starting on the ladder, but yeah, just being consistent, as you said, you've mentioned a couple of times, being coachable, and being a sponge. I think those are some qualities that, you can't go wrong with, just being able to listen and being available. Jules, my guy, coach, I really, 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 really appreciate your time. Some real great insight, some amazing information. And just for anyone that's interested in finding out more information about, your academy and stuff, where can we find you?
Well, the best way would be probably Instagram or Facebook. We are actually redoing our website, so that should be up soon. But our contact information is up there, and if anybody wants to talk to us, hit up Coach D. He has my number too. So Danny, I appreciate you having me on, and it's great to see what you're doing and what you're trying to do, and best of luck with it. And if you need anything, and as far as EuroStepping, just let me know, man. Hey, so I'm Julian Betko from Get Better Academy. You've been watching the EuroStepping, a great podcast show hosted by Coach D. Work hard and don't forget that whether you believe you can or you can't, you are right.
Appreciate you watching the EuroStepping.
I want to thank everybody for watching EuroStepping.
Watching the EuroStepping.
The EuroStepping.
The EuroStepping.
You've been watching the EuroStepping.
The EuroStepping.
EuroStepping.
You've been watching the EuroStepping, a great podcast show hosted by Coach D.